Welcome to Harper Fox Trailblazer Talks. Today we are discussing women in engineering and sustainable strategy with Susan Robson, the Financial Times #1 future leader, champion of women's in business, and principal consultant at National Grid. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Scarlett.
It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for joining us. So tell us about your journey and how did you get to where you are today?
So it's been a journey of kind of three parts, I think. Drive, which has kind of filtered through everything I've done. Some luck and opportunity.
Yeah.
And then probably latterly networking and planning. So for my studies, I chose things I liked. And I think you're naturally better at the things you like, so then it's easier to work hard at them. And then in terms of work, I've really just taken opportunities as they've come. Obviously, I had to do a little bit of job seeking, but I didn't really have a passion and I just sort of fell into things. But what I did do was when I got there, I really like to do well. So I really throw myself into something. And I think through doing that, the people you work with see other opportunities for you. And so quite often I would make moves that someone else had maybe said, have you thought about this? You know, you're really good at this skill, you could do this over here. And then it's only really latterly that I've been a bit more targeted and specific in what I've done in my career. So yeah, 3 eras of career, I would say.
And what do you think has kind of driven you more latterly to be more targeted in your career?
I think probably the benefit of hindsight. I think I've found things that I know I don't want to do. And also I found things that I do want to follow. So I think working in something that's purpose-driven means a lot to me. So I've been lucky enough where I work now at National Grid that I've been able to both work for a purpose-driven company, but also do the voluntary role, which I do on the side, which is doing work within inclusion and diversity and equality. So that's been a very lucky position to be in, and I've loved doing it. I've loved having those 2 parallel streams. So I think you know, as you get older, you realise the things that you definitely don't want to do.
Yes.
And you know, you start to narrow down the things that you do want to do, and in narrowing down, you then think, what might I like to do next, and how might I get there? So I think I haven't been super structured, I have to say. I know some people are like really, really structured, but it's definitely been more of a conscious effort. And I know we've spoken a little bit about this before. I think as your children get older, you're much freer to do things that you've engineered yourself rather than things that fit in with all the other parts of your life, I guess.
I mean, I'm just waiting for that to happen, to be honest, Susan. I'm waiting for that freedom.
It's coming.
But I was just going to say, I mean, when you were touching on the inclusion and diversity piece, and that's nice actually, because of course, when we first met, I was pitching in front of Lord Sugar and you were one of the experts on the final of The Apprentice. And it's been such an incredible journey since, sort of, you know, to, I guess, have the opportunity to pitch to you as an expert in your field. And then also you've shared some incredible best practice with us then since that journey over the last couple of years.
It's been useful.
It's been very useful. and actually, I was going to say, I think something that really struck me with yourself, Susan, was I went to go and meet you at National Grid. And we were talking about some amazing initiatives of how to support women in engineering in particular. And you shared loads of amazing best practice with me. And then afterwards you were like, oh, I've got some interesting content that I'm happy to kind of just send your way. And I was a bit kind of like awestruck, like, huh? Because that is not what you normally hear. Normally it's sort of everybody can be a little bit insular. And you actually said, well, no, because if we share our best practices and you share your best practices, then actually it helps the whole of the industry. And it kind of really struck a chord with me. And since I've tried to do exactly that. So you inspired me. No, honestly, you inspired me. Because I thought, no, it's about uplifting everybody together and supporting everybody, you know, in industry.
And I think as well, in working in equality, diversity and inclusion, you do get that feeling that people want to share. I think where it becomes difficult is where it's someone's business, obviously, and it's not my business. I do it as a volunteer, so it's easy for me to you know, if I do create stuff, to then, you know, I'm happy for people to take that if they feel it's useful. And I always sort of say, you know, take it and copy it out in your own handwriting, like tweak it for how it suits you. But I'm really pleased that it was useful to you.
Very.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah. So tell us about some of your, or what you deem as some of your biggest achievements so far.
Okay, so obviously ranking number 1 in the Future Leaders for the Financial Times in 2018. I just want to point, I'm not still reigning champion. So it was a couple of years ago, but that was a really lovely kind of external validation of the work that I'd done, and completely unexpected on my part. So that was brilliant. And the things that came with that, so getting an interview in the Financial Times was amazing.
It's amazing.
Getting shout outs from Paul Polson, who won the Male Allies Award. And obviously he's a bit of a rock star in terms of sustainability, equality and inclusion. So that was fantastic. And then I think, off the back of that, I also got The Apprentice, which I'm sure that day on The Apprentice, our experience was very different. I had a hoot. I'm sure you did not.
No, it was great. It was amazing.
But that was brilliant. And, you know, joking aside, I mean, meeting the other people on the panel was fantastic. Everyone, you know, was in it together. I already knew a couple of people. We didn't know we were all going beforehand. I already knew a couple of people through my work. But really seeing you and Karina, you know, so young, so confident, just going for it. And I know, you know, it's a TV format, but to stand up in front of that hall of people just blew my mind. And I thought, how fantastic these women are doing this. So that was brilliant. But back to what I've actually achieved rather than what you've achieved.
Thank you though, Susan.
I think, this year or last year I actually got a scholarship to study at Oxford.
Oh my goodness.
So that was amazing. So you're never too old to do these things, and actually doing that was amazing. I've met a great network of people.
That's incredible. And what will you be studying, or what have you studied?
So I've finished now, thank goodness. I loved it, but yeah, it's time consuming. So I did strategy and innovation and executive planning and that. So that's good. Yeah, really stretching, but really interesting. And so that's now done, but yeah, really pleased with myself for being able to step back into studying.
Yeah, and innovation is absolutely kind of the buzzword. I'm hearing that a lot as well recently.
Yeah,
innovation directors is kind of the we're being asked quite a lot for.
It was a good subject to pick, and kind of where I am going with my career. And then I think finally that this year getting on the board of the Women's Engineering Society, reviewing their strategy, that's been really exciting and
incredible.
Privilege to do. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Wow.
Very kind.
It's the truth. So you've obviously had some absolutely amazing achievements. Have you had any sacrifices along the way?
So I try not to think of things in terms of sacrifices, because I think that's quite an emotive word. I think immediately people think negatively about that, and I suppose ultimately sometimes it does mean giving something up. But I think what's helped me is a better way to think about things is thinking in terms of the red lines that you won't cross when you make decisions in your life. And they will change, you know, as you move through your life. So, you know, when you're young, free and single and you're starting out in work, you may not have many red lines that, you know, you think, okay, I want to work in a city, or, you know, I want to work in certain industries. And then as your life changes, those red lines might change. So, you know, if you decide to have a family or you're a carer, you might have a red line that says, I have to work somewhere that's just 10 minutes from my house. I don't really mind what I do, but that's the thing that's kind of the anchor point. And I think over your life, you get to know what those things are and how they change with time. So, you know, I think that sort of shapes how you make decisions and what you choose to do and what you choose not to do. And I always think of the journalist Libby Purvis talking about, you know, women who work, you know, if you feel guilty about working, then stop working. But if you can't stop working, don't feel guilty about it.
Stop feeling guilty about it. Yeah, love that.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, because for some women, it's not a choice. You know? So
and
for most women, I would say it's not a choice.
I would agree. For most women, it's not a choice. And also, I think there's really no benefit. There's no benefit to feeling guilty,
and comes out of that. That's so true.
Yeah, no benefit to worrying.
No, there isn't.
There isn't.
Stop us.
Yeah, literally. What is the point?
Yeah, it's wasted energy, isn't it? Yeah, no, that's true. But yeah, so that's how I've kind of dealt with things. Probably, you know, just being conscious of what are the things that I will and won't do.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. So what small yet effective strategies could you say that businesses could implement to impact or positively impact sustainability?
So I think there's two things, and these won't surprise you coming from me. I think all businesses need to have a diverse workforce and an inclusive workplace to make sure they've got a sustainable business. And why do I say that? So
why, Susan? Why?
Surprise answer from Susan. And the reason is because you do want people to come to work and be able to do their best, to feel safe to challenge, to come up with innovations, as you say, either in what you do, but also in how you do it. So it's kind of, you know, it affects your current business, but it also affects, you know, where you take your business in the future. And I think you only get those really innovative ideas and those innovative, with a small I, ways of doing the things you already do, doing them better, if you've got a mix of people in your workplace and they feel safe to speak out. So I know it's probably, you know, a bit of a corny answer, but I do think, you know, if I had to pick, you know, something that all businesses should be looking to do to be sustainable for the future, it would be that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm in total agreement with you. You're definitely talking my language. So why would you say that it's important to encourage more women into engineering, and do you think that will support us to net zero?
So, I mean, for exactly those reasons that I sort of mentioned in the last question, I think, you know, engineering is overwhelmingly not diverse, and not just for women, you know, for other minority groups as well. And, you know, if we just look at the net zero part, you know, whether it's net zero or pandemic management or addressing violence against women and girls, these important, urgent issues of society will only be solved if we've got a diverse mix of ideas coming in. We'll solve it quicker if we've got those different ideas coming in. And then again, you know, if we don't have diverse people involved in the solution design and how we deliver it, we're definitely not going to get there by the targets that we've set. So I just want to also at this point say a quick note about the more general term of women in engineering. So as you know, I'm not an engineer. And I think, you know, whilst engineering is at the heart of all these solutions, I think, you know, our technical engineers are very much standing on the shoulders of creatives, of people, of mathematicians. And I think, you know, women and maybe other minorities need to broaden their minds, and the engineering industry needs to open up how it advertises jobs so that people know this and they don't think, I'm not an engineer, I can't get involved in the engineering industry.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think that's really important to think about. You know, we often talk in the Women's Engineering Society, mainly me, because I'm the only non-engineer on the board, to say, you know, it's women in engineering, so it's women in tech. You know, it's all of those facets that, you know, means the engineers can do the brilliant work that they do. We also do want engineers.
Of course we want engineers, but I think actually you've just homed on some really good points. I think first of all, the fact that actually it can be diverse within engineering, and not everyone maybe needs to be an engineer. They might have come from a different industry, have a different background experience, but everybody in industry is passionate about the same things. You know, that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of those sort of different problem solving attitudes, isn't it?
And I think with you know, these questions that are the big societal questions, you have to have a workforce that reflects a society that these problems impact.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's essential, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes. I'm just feeling the passion as I'm speaking to you. I'm like, absolutely. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really refreshing to hear that, what you just said actually about, you're not an engineer, but obviously you're sitting on the board of WES.
Yeah.
And actually that's massive.
Yeah, and what's been quite good. So I've been specifically brought in to do their strategy, and I think what's been quite good is bringing that kind of, obviously I've just done a year of academic strategy, and so I've been able to bring some of those theoretical pieces, but also experiential pieces from my job to the board, and maybe brought a new perspective, and hopefully brought some new ideas in to help them do more, do better, hopefully anyway.
Oh no, I'm sure.
Early days.
I'm sure definitely. So, and what would you say? How would you say that businesses can better support women in particular in their development?
So I think most broadly, businesses we need to avoid this kind of reluctant manager syndrome. So quite often people get promoted and start managing teams because they're good at their job.
Yes.
And no one trains them to be a manager or a leader. And so quite often you find yourself in a team with someone who is not really interested in your development plan, who doesn't really understand you. So I think businesses need to be careful who they recruit into their leadership pools, I think would be my most general point, because I quite often see that is a bit of a gap in businesses. But beyond that, I think there's lots of institutions and programs that either women or businesses can get involved in on behalf of their female staff that help with professional development. So obviously I'm going to talk about WES because I've got under the skin of that in the last few months. But they provide products and services that, they're a charitable organisation, they provide products and services that are targeted particularly at those things that disproportionately present barriers for women. So it's tailored to women, it's tailored to engineers, or women in engineering, it's run by engineers, so women who understand this stuff. And I think it provides that kind of one-stop shop. It's quite, it's easy to cut through the noise of professional development to get something in one place. And of course, it's an unrivaled network of women in engineering, which is a great thing in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
So, those kind of knowledge shares or that networking. I love networking.
Yeah.
In case anyone hasn't picked up on that.
Yeah, I like that you touched on that actually, because that's something I've noticed myself as a development area. I think it's so important to be able to self-reflect, to ask for that feedback, ask for that kind of development areas that need improving. And something that I identified in myself was I need to be a better networker. I need to be more confident networking. Yeah. And I've actually heard that from quite a few female candidates in particular. And I wonder, aside from the networking, is there any advice that you would kind of give personally, maybe, to any females that you've seen in particular and thought, oh, we're underselling ourselves in that area, or there's something that they could kind of literally take away?
Yeah, networking is a difficult thing because some people absolutely hate it. And I think when you go to an event that is billed as a networking event, there's always that sense of dread, and you're like, this is really cringe. You have to try and make small talk. And I think what's quite useful if you're going to a specific networking event or a conference or something is quite often these events will publish the list beforehand. Yes. So I think one thing you can do as prep, I think we were talking before about doing prep. Yes. I'm a prepper. Is to maybe look at a few people who are going and think, oh, actually, I've had a little look at their LinkedIn. I'd like to, maybe find out. Yeah, not in a. I am gonna sound really cringe now. Not in a sort of superficial way or this is the be all and end all. But at least you're going into the room and you feel as if you've got some background information for people, and you might have some little conversation starters. And I think it's fine to have a few tools and things, some stock questions that are not maybe what do you do for a living? Although that is a good opener, because effectively that's what people are using their networks for, isn't it?
I actually think that's a great tip. I'm going to take that away. That's a brilliant, it's great. That makes sense. It's like, okay, let's look at who would maybe be sensible connections, and we can both add value to each other, and let's understand a little bit that might be interesting for them to talk about, and vice versa. Yeah. So, no, that's a really good one. Thank you.
That's okay.
So, if you could change one thing in the world of business, what would it be?
So I thought about this long and hard, and I think this is going to be a really weird, maybe left field one. What I'd really love to change is making going to work more pleasurable. I know it sounds really odd, but I think in general, people will turn up to work, obviously, to pay the mortgage or the rent.
Yeah.
But when you get there, I think people want to do a good job. They want to be part of a team. They want to share in the winning. They want to be part of a team when you don't win, and you learn from your stuff and you move on. People love that. Obviously, there's different types of working styles. And I think somehow along the way, we seem to have sucked the joy out of working. And you know, people talk about retirement as if it's like the end goal. And I think if we could make work, you know, enjoyable, respectful, you know, have a bit more autonomy. And I think if anything's come out of the pandemic, it's perhaps learning to let people be more autonomous in the way they work.
Yes, and more flexible.
And more flexible. And I think in doing that, I think we could unlock a lot of creativity and productivity in the workplace. Yeah. I don't know how we do it.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. I always find it quite perplexing when people are like, I get it, I get the ambition, I get the drive, I would describe myself as that person too. But they're like, oh, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 40 or 50. And I'm sort of a bit like, what are you going to do then? Like, what's the goal then? Yeah. You know, like as in, why not work on something that you're loving, what you want to do, and you don't really want to retire from it? I get financial goals, but I find it quite perplexing. So I'm, totally agree with you. Yeah, you kind of want to get them and do something that you really love. Yes. I guess that's the choices you make sometimes, isn't it? And circumstances as well.
It is. It's luck. Luck, definitely.
Yeah. And what would you say has been your biggest lesson that you've learned, and what would your advice to future generations be?
So
big question.
It is a big question. So definitely you have to make it for yourself. You're always going to meet people who've had more advantage and people who've had less advantage. And I think the question you can ask yourself is, what does my difference bring to the table here? And you do have to engineer, pardon things for yourself. I think, you know, definitely networking does count. And, you know, again, some people have great networks, some people are starting out, they've got small networks. Yeah. But what I say to people there, or, you know, people have had advantages that have enabled them to grow their network. And what I always say to people there is, you know, network in with me, and then my network comes your network.
Yes.
And if I can help you, I will help you. So, you know, pay it forward, always pay it forward. I think that's, you know, something I try and do where I can. But, you know, those network of networks, they call them weak ties. You know, you might know someone who knows someone. And I think that is how you ultimately probably get most of your getting on advice, is through people who know people.
Yeah. Well, it's warm, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's warm. So, that's really good. That's really helpful. Thank you. Susan, I have to say, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Me too. I've enjoyed it.
You know what? It's been really inspirational. I think just kind of hearing your story and some of the things you do and the way that you go about doing it, I think it's a really kind of inspirational piece as well for everybody, not just females in industry, but everybody. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, Susan, so now we're going to go into our lightning round.
Okay.
Susan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, what do you like to do for fun?
Really old lady things, like gardening and reading. Is it okay to say eating and drinking?
Definitely.
Love a spa.
Oh, me too, me too. Good answers. What does equality mean to you?
It means making sure everyone gets the same chance or opportunities as everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. And what would you say to your younger self?
Don't stress about buying the Karen Millen faux fur coat at university, because you will still be wearing it 27 years later.
Oh, that is a fantastic sarcastic one. I'm going to take that one on board.
Yeah.
No. And who inspires you and why?
So obviously there's a lot of discussion about role models. I like to pick little pieces out of lots of different people when I see role modelling behaviours, because you don't always see the whole person. But the person at the moment who I find quite inspirational is Ian Wright.
Ah, okay.
He has done some amazing messaging around inclusion and diversity. He's had what sounds like a terrible life. He's made the best of things, and I think a really good lesson from Ian around role modelling is one of his role models was his teacher at school, a Mr. Pigden, who did not look like him or had the same background, and Ian just managed to pick out those pieces and be inspired by him. So I think that's a real lesson for all of us, to make sure we look for the good advice, even if, you know, people maybe don't look like us. Plus, he's an Arsenal legend. If he's watching, love you, Ian.
Hi, Ian. Hi. That's a brilliant one. Thank you. And I think actually just going on to that then, so what makes an exceptional leader?
So I think it's people who can provide direction.
Yes.
And people who can create structure where there is none. I think people look to leaders for that. I think it's someone who can both exploit their current business and who can explore future business opportunities at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it's someone who's interested in people, who takes time to get to know their people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, what does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability is making sure that we all have a future that's desirable.
Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. I needed to take that one in for a moment. And tell us or leave us with some inspirational words or an inspiring phrase.
This is a difficult one, but the one I think I've used the most over my life is from Anne of Green Gables. Don't know if anyone's read that novel, but she said, tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it. And I think that's quite good, in that it helps you, you know, be confident to make mistakes and learn from it, and then take that into tomorrow and, you know, do better or do differently tomorrow. So
and keep
quite
building.
Like that one.
Yeah.
Keep building.
Keep
exactly,
building.
yeah.
I like it. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute delight.
Oh,
thank
I
you
always
so
love meeting
much.
with you.
You too. So thank you very much. Brilliant.
Thank you.
That was really good. Those are really good. I like that a lot.